Today on Notsam Wrestling, Jacob Fatu is a complete disruptor. Sami Zayn is your number one contender. Who's going to win these Royal Rumble matches? And is Gunther actually going to retire AJ Styles? This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling. I hope that if you're listening somewhere from the United States that got hit with the bad weather yesterday, maybe still today, over the weekend, whatever it was. I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's doing great. Maybe you got a chance to just cuddle up cozy by the fire, watch Saturday night's main event. It's better than a Yule log. It's the best. But it was a big Saturday night's main event, and I think that one of the key parts of this show to me, first of all, it was better than I expected. I guess I went in, they've only been promoting it for the last week or so. So I went in going, cool, this would just be a fun night of wrestling. Every match of the three matches that were actually matches were really, really good. And I liked the Jacob and Cody angle to start the whole show. I was worried that it was going to be quick. If it were quick, I would not have liked it. But the fact that they went all over the building, we'll get to that. But I've got a lot of thoughts coming off of the AJ Styles Shinsuke Nakamura match. So we find out on Thursday that Nick Aldis has invited AJ Styles to SmackDown. And I had said on the radio show, on Not Sam Wrestling Live, on Pro Wrestling Nation, on Sirius, I said, I wonder if Nick's going to offer him a match. You know what I mean? If it's as we're building up, we just made this Gunther stipulation on Monday. As of Monday night, Gunther agrees to AJ Styles' request for a rematch. But if and only if AJ Styles puts his career on the line. And we've known that 2026 is AJ Styles' last year in wrestling. He has said that many times. He said that throughout 2025, next year will be my last year. I don't think that when he said that, anybody even considered January would be it. You know what I mean? That he's got those 11 months, we're not doing anything. We're done after a month. It's over. So I think that it instantly became a conversation when the match became official that we were going to get Gunther and AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble with AJ's career on the line. And I think we do. We started to think about all the different scenarios where you could, because you can't believe that Gunther's going to lose. You just can't. There's no scenarios where in a one-on-one match you can feasibly believe that Gunther is going to lose. The idea that he would beat John Cena and then the next month already lose a match, on paper, if Gunther loses the match to anybody, but AJ Styles especially, Gunther's the one that made the stipulation that made AJ Styles put his career on the line. So if Gunther goes so far as to make AJ Styles put his career on the line and then loses, Gunther's humiliated. All that heat that Gunther had coming off of making John Cena give up, he can't have it anymore. I think that people who chant "you tapped out" at Gunther are foolish in the sense that beating John Cena, making John Cena tap out, takes away any humiliation that Gunther would have suffered at WrestleMania last year against Jey Uso. He's beaten Jey Uso since then. He won the World Heavyweight title back. He made John Cena give up. He put Goldberg to sleep. Yesterday is yesterday at that point. But if within 6 weeks of beating John Cena, you're losing matches that are supposed to be these big retirement matches, well, then maybe you had a lucky night. And you can't go at that point on Monday Night Raw and brag about making John Cena give up. You can't do what he did on Monday Night Raw. You can't make your list of accomplishments and say, I put Goldberg to sleep. I made John Cena give up like a little, well, you know what? You can't do that if you're out here losing matches, if you can't retire AJ Styles. Now that's the stipulation. At the same time, the idea that AJ Styles would end things in a singles match at the Royal Rumble in January is a thought that none of us considered. Because it sounds crazy at the very least. WrestleMania is still, very end of the first third of the year. If you're going to retire early in the year, WrestleMania, you would think AJ Styles would get a big WrestleMania match to retire. And so then you start running yourself into circles. Well, AJ can't retire now, not at the Rumble. And Gunther can't lose. So then we run into circles and run into circles and run into circles where we're wrestling commentators chasing our own tail. It's absurd. And so when Nick Aldis invited AJ Styles to show up on SmackDown, I was like, okay, well, this is, first of all, just the fact that AJ would be on SmackDown is, at the very least, to build up this match with the retirement stipulation. And by putting AJ, because you only have one Raw before the Rumble, so to put AJ on every show before the Rumble after that stip is announced is to tell the world, hey, this is the reason to tune into the show. This is a serious, serious stipulation for AJ Styles. And you go, oh, maybe there is something going on here. And I said I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Aldis is inviting AJ there to put together a match for Saturday night's main event. We had 3 matches announced. Nothing more on Raw, just the tag title match. And I said, yeah, I would not be surprised. I don't know what it would be, but I would not be surprised. So Nick Aldis invites AJ to SmackDown, has his meeting with him, talks about the retirement match and everything. Later on in the show, Cody and AJ have this interaction where you're like, oh, you know, just the fact that are we doing stuff before we can't do it anymore? Or is this just stuff to lead to adding seriousness to a stipulation that's going to be okay because AJ's not retiring? I don't know right now. And Nick Aldis goes, okay, here's Shinsuke Nakamura. You guys are going to have a match at Saturday night's main event if you'd like. And AJ and Shinsuke, they shake hands and they agree to it. And already we start telling the story of the history between these two, going back to New Japan Pro Wrestling, coming into WWE, pushing forward WrestleMania 34, all of this. And the dream match that was a dream match before it became a reality, but on some levels is still a dream match between Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles. And I think that we got that match that we wanted on Saturday night's main event. But the fact that we got AJ versus Shinsuke, the fact that it was great, the fact that we got Shinsuke coming out as old Shinsuke, original music, original gear, jacket, take it off, armband on, no shirt on, kicks and shinshashas and knees and everything you could imagine. The king of strong style was on Saturday night's main event. And as I'm watching Shinsuke, I got a similar feeling that I got to Finn Balor on Monday Night Raw, which we'll discuss about Finn Balor. But even more so with Shinsuke, it wasn't, I felt like it was more than a reminder. With Shinsuke, I was like, man, imagine if they had gone all the way with this guy when he was that guy. Imagine if whenever that was, WrestleMania 34, so what was that, 6 years ago? So 20, was it 2026 now? So 2018? Imagine if in 2018 they didn't turn Shinsuke, like they really, coming off of the Royal Rumble, not to say he had to beat AJ Styles in that match at WrestleMania, even if AJ had still won. If that version of Shinsuke, even for a short period of time, had become a true babyface main event, the way he did in NXT guy, it would have been unbelievable. It would have been amazing. And I think with all the years that we've had Shinsuke do so many different things, from, you know, heel Shinsuke to jumpsuit Shinsuke to the kind of newer sort of, you know, samurai heel Shinsuke with the mist and everything, to all the different versions, I think that we forgot how great King of Strong Style was. I think that we forgot. I mean, I remember it was probably 2016. Yeah, it was definitely 2016. Watching Wrestle Kingdom. Actually, I was in Los Angeles. My wife and I were hanging out at Kathy Kelly's house up in the middle of the night watching Shinsuke Nakamura on Wrestle Kingdom, and just like enamored with what this guy could do. And so to see him have this performance on Saturday night's main event was great. But I also was like, man, it feels like you're putting some bows on AJ Styles. It feels like you might be crossing T's and dotting I's. Is there a reality where AJ Styles is actually retiring? Could it be that the storytelling is so next level that they're doing things that you would do to honor somebody on his way out when he's not actually on his way out, just to make you believe he's on his way out? Or are they doing these things because he actually is on his way out? I think Shinsuke posted something on Instagram talking about a conversation that AJ and Shin had about AJ's retirement, like last year at some point. I think he deleted it, though, so who knows? But, I mean, you start looking at it and you realize the Royal Rumble is AJ Styles' 10-year anniversary. AJ Styles debuted for the WWE at Royal Rumble 2016. We're now at Royal Rumble 2026. I mean, between the anniversary, between the reverence that he's been treated with, AJ Styles, that is, in the last week or two, between doing this Shinsuke match, which felt like the AJ Shinsuke felt like it was for AJ what John AJ was for John. And you're going, is this actually going to happen? Is Gunther going to retire AJ Styles? And if so, how are we going to feel about that? How are we going to feel that it's happening so quickly and that it's happening now? You know, when we all had these like fantasy booking ideas of all the different people Gunther could retire, part of my, I don't know, part of the reason I said, I don't know if it's the best idea. I like it, but I think you have to get around the idea of Gunther becoming predictable. I think that my exception to the idea of Gunther being a career killer was always, if you know somebody's retiring and you build to their retirement and then they have a match with Gunther, you know exactly how it's going to go. You're not holding your breath during the match, and you're not mad at Gunther at the end because you knew, like, this is just what happens. However, if it's somebody like AJ Styles, and instead of even getting a couple months, you end up with a week and a half heads up, and then that's it. After the Royal Rumble, AJ's gone. He doesn't even make it to WrestleMania. That's crazy. And that does add to Gunther lore. I think that there are some ways that we could get through this without Gunther winning. Like there's two things that happen here. Either Gunther retires AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble, or there somehow is something done that will push this to WrestleMania. And there are a couple ways you could push it to WrestleMania. Gunther could storyline put AJ Styles in the hospital. He could beat him down and beat him down and beat him down. Maybe he beats AJ Styles, but he keeps beating him up, so much so that the referee reverses his decision. AJ Styles now wins. Gunther keeps beating up AJ Styles to the point that AJ Styles is off of television and doesn't come back until, end of March, beginning of April. And then the match is made, and maybe it's like some added stipulation. Maybe it's career versus career. Maybe it's whatever it is. You add some stipulation, and then that's how you take it to WrestleMania, because that's the other thing. You can't just have AJ sneak one out and then go, okay, they'll have their rematch at WrestleMania. WrestleMania is in like 3.5, 4 months. What are you doing for all of February, all of March, and most of April? So 3 months, not 4, 3 months. What are you doing for those 3 months? Gunther's just got to be in a holding pattern. There are somebody called into the radio show saying, what if Gunther won, but then AJ Styles got called out of retirement? Like Rocky 2, where Gunther beat AJ Styles. AJ Styles is retired. Now Gunther is just an absolute menace. Who's going to come in and save the day? AJ Styles. And then AJ Styles gets drawn out of retirement for one more match to face Gunther at WrestleMania. The only reason Rocky 2 doesn't work at all for me is because imagine Rocky 2, but the heel wins. That movie would not be great. The idea of bringing AJ Styles out of retirement just so Gunther can beat him again is like, it feels like we're focusing a lot on the journey and completely ignoring that the destination is not going to pay off. So I can't necessarily get behind that. I think, the best of all things. If I were given the task, okay, we're not retiring AJ Styles. Because honestly, if I was just given the task, here's the match, book the finish, I might just book AJ Styles' retirement. Because it's like final, it's Gunther, it's not wishy-washy, you know what I'm saying? And it allows you to do what you're going to do with Gunther. I think that there's a key part of all of this, and that's that AJ Styles is not declared for the Royal Rumble, but Gunther is declared for the Royal Rumble. He even made it a point to say one of the reasons he didn't want to face AJ Styles at first was because he didn't want to pull double duty. He declared for the Rumble before AJ Styles came in. Gunther's in the Royal Rumble match as of now. AJ Styles is not as of now. Now, that's not to say that that won't change, but is the reason that AJ Styles won't be in the Royal Rumble because he'll be retired by the time the Royal Rumble match starts. It's possible. If there's... So, it'd be crazy. But I might just say, look, you just got to retire AJ Styles. You got to do it now. People won't expect it at the Rumble. Or even if they do, it'll still kind of be a shock. They will expect it at WrestleMania. The other thing you could do, if you want to save Gunther and not retire AJ Styles, is you can have AJ Styles sneak one by Gunther. You can have Gunther throw a fit and beat up AJ Styles, but AJ Styles won the match. If AJ Styles wins the match by pinning Gunther, then Gunther has to go on to win the Royal Rumble. That's the only way you save face there. Because then the headline coming back to Monday Night Raw, especially if AJ Styles is off TV because you did a beatdown angle after the match, is that AJ Styles is off TV and Gunther won the Royal Rumble. Now you tell the story of Gunther heading to WrestleMania. Here's the other thing. You've got to put the title on Gunther now, which is, I don't know, something that you want to do right away or something that's further down the line. I don't know, but you have to put the title back on Gunther. And then you wait until after WrestleMania, maybe the night after WrestleMania. And that's when AJ Styles comes back. And he can do one more match because he won against Gunther. And this time it's career versus championship. Maybe AJ Styles says, guess what? I'm not done. Maybe 2016 or 2026 isn't going to be my last year. Maybe I still got another run in me and I'm ready for that title. Maybe he says, Gunther, putting me on the shelf was the worst thing you could have done. Because I went home and I got healed up and I've got more energy right now than I've had in 10 years. I'm ready to go. And I want that title. And then you retire AJ Styles. You could do that. But if you did that, if you had Gunther lose, but take AJ Styles, it's really the only way you could save Gunther losing is that after Gunther lost, he has to beat up AJ Styles, he has to win the Royal Rumble, he has to win the championship at WrestleMania, and then he has to retire AJ Styles anyway. So you have to turn the entire show into the Gunther show in order to save AJ Styles, which I don't think is necessarily the plan. You could avoid all that and just have Gunther retire AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble. It is a wild, wild scenario to put together, but I think one of those matches that we're all going to be very locked on to. Hey guys, we're going to get right back to it, but I want to tell you that today's episode of Notsam Wrestling is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive because they save hundreds of dollars. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, for owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it. So your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. Speaking of being locked on, I was very locked on to Jacob Fatu's promo with Cody Rhodes. That face-to-face on SmackDown, where Jacob Fatu is just looking at Cody. And it's like I said last week, it's the Jacob Fatu that we saw at the beginning of the run. It's the Jacob Fatu, there's nothing fun about him. It's the Jacob Fatu that is completely telling the story of his real life, the journey that it actually took to get him here. It's that Jacob Fatu. And the fact that now everybody's got to look at Jacob Fatu and realize that this isn't a guy who came up through wrestling. This is a guy who is not trying to be the man because he just, by golly, wants to be the best. This is a guy who wants to be the man because if he's not, he doesn't know how he's going to feed his kids. And he's got 7. Who's willing to go back to a mentality that he held when he was locked up in jail to make sure that he gets his. That's the Jacob Fatu that we are seeing. And when Jacob Fatu just marched into that interview and he looked at Cody Rhodes and he had every bit of sincerity in his voice. There wasn't an ounce of doubt. There wasn't a moment of, oh, there he is playing a character. It was Jacob. And he sat there and he said, you think I'm like all the other Samoans that you fought? Hell, they don't make them like me anymore. Hell, they never made them like me. And you're just soaking it all up. You're believing every single thing to the point that Jacob Fatu, and in the sense that he's sitting there talking about 7 kids, 1 mattress. The fact that he's sitting there and telling you this story, and people that have grown up in poverty or with poverty around them can relate to this story. People who have struggled in life and maybe had periods in their life that they're not necessarily proud of, or that they had to do things that they never thought they would have otherwise had to do, can relate to Jacob Fatu. Cody Rhodes is a guy who is, well, he's sitting on the top of the mountain, and he has been sitting on the top of the mountain for a long time. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. Both people struggled, but there's a big difference. From one struggle being, my dad had to sell his Rolex to put me in acting school, and the other struggle being, I ended up in jail because I'm living a life of crime trying to provide for these kids that I have with $0 in my pocket and no bank account to speak of. That's a totally different struggle. And Jacob Fatu coming in, and Jacob is one of those characters that takes the tropes of professional wrestling and completely shakes them up and discombobulates them. When you put Jacob Fatu into these scenarios, it's like you're watching a wrestling story, and then Jacob Fatu enters and just shakes the whole thing up to the point that you're not booing Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu is not a heel. That doesn't make Cody a heel. Cody's not a heel at all. Cody is a straight up babyface. But Jacob Fatu is not a heel. I'm looking at Jacob Fatu, right? And I'm sitting there and I see the way he just beats down everybody, right? The way that he went after Drew McIntyre, went after Cody Rhodes, but he also went and beat down Kit Wilson, whoever's in his way. Marching right into that interview. Getting right in Cody's face. Saying things in a really cool way that you actually believe as well. What? Doing things that are normally villainous, but then you get to the arena and Montreal is chanting, Fatu, Fatu, Fatu. And I may be putting the cart before the horse here, but Jacob Fatu, and it's not the same, it's different, and it should be different. But there's an essence there, a reality that goes beyond heel and babyface that you believe so much that you can't help but cheer for. A reality that shakes wrestling tropes so much that you can't help but look at this guy as a guy positioned to be the guy. Jacob Fatu, I realized after watching Friday, I'm obsessed with this promo. When he came out on Saturday, and I'm not trying to put pressure on anybody. I'm not saying this is where it's going to end up. I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying is that I felt similarly about Stone Cold Steve Austin. When Stone Cold Steve Austin would talk to you straight out of a complete Texas vernacular, because that's who he was and that's where he came from. The same way Jacob Fatu has never, in his speech, in his mannerisms, in the way that he moves, has never left the Bay Area. Stone Cold Steve Austin, who owns every part of who he is within that character, is the same for Jacob Fatu. Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was going after you, whether you were a heel or a babyface, it did not matter. Same for Jacob Fatu. And Stone Cold Steve Austin, who didn't do any of those, any wrestling tricks, any sort of babyface call and repeat stuff, anything. And just caught on like wildfire. At the moment, same as Jacob Fatu. And it is wild to kind of see that all happening. It's kind of unbelievable, you know, to see that with Jacob Fatu, because you have Drew McIntyre as a straight up heel. You have Cody Rhodes as a straight up babyface, but then you have Jacob Fatu over here, and he's something else, and it's something exquisite. It's something great. And I'm watching this. So we get out of that promo, and we get in to Saturday night's main event. And Jacob Fatu is walking to the ring, and he drops another bar the same way Austin was dropping bars. Psalms, your John 3:16s. Jacob Fatu is walking to the ring with a camera in his face, shouting, "I went from EBT to WWE." There's more people than you think, I think, that can relate to that. And even the sentiment behind it, even if you weren't on EBT, but you get that. There's something about that story that people love. You're drawn to that story. You root for that story, especially when somebody does it in such an unapologetic way. I'm not changing who I am. I'm not trying to enter into your world. I'm not putting on a jacket so that you'll let me into your restaurant. I'm walking into your restaurant. I'm tipping over the table, and I'm waiting for you to serve me my escargot, because this is my restaurant now. That's Jacob Fatu. And so Jacob Fatu coming out and then Cody coming out and realizing that he has to, you can't change who he is. You know what I mean? He can't be like, oh, well, now I'm wrestling Jacob, now I have to. No, he's still Cody. And that's what makes Cody Cody. There's an integrity to the Cody Rhodes character. And Cody's maintaining that integrity. And it's that character that Jacob now competes with. But there's a little more edge. He's ready for a fight. And we've been watching him be more and more ready for fights as the weeks have progressed. I think the Drew McIntyre rivalry was a great sort of appetizer to what we see going on right now. But he comes out with that chromed out American Nightmare skull, mask, helmet thing on, just ready to go. And they end up with a brawl. You know, I thought the only way, it was going to be tough to get out of this match. There was no way Jacob Fatu could lose. And Cody, you know, losing a whole bunch, I don't love either, especially if he's on his way back. So the fact that they made a brawl. Now, I had a conversation before the show. I was like, listen, if you want to add time to the show to make sure Shin and AJ get all the time they need, you could do this. However, I didn't know it was going to be as long as it was. Now, to be honest, when that brawl broke out, when they're fighting each other and Cody's still got his jacket on, then Cody's taking his jacket off, when Charles Robinson took the bump and then all the referees came out, I was very worried that was where it was going to end. And I was going to be like, well, that's not, I mean, I'm not saying you need a clean finish, but you can't advertise a match and just have it end right there unless you're going to revisit it at the end of the night. But when it continued on, when Cody was on the outside of the ring and security's holding him back, and then Jacob just jumps up on the top rope, spins around on the top rope, and then lands that moonsault onto the security guards that apparently knock over like dominoes. So the security guards next to them and Cody all go smashing to the ground. when they end up going through the crowd, when they end up going upstairs, fighting in the concessions. My daughter's watching Saturday night's main event. She goes, Dad, I'll bet those concession workers are really happy. And I go, why? And she goes, because they never get to see the show. They're always up at the concession stand. And I go, that's genius. I bet they are really happy that they finally get to see the show. But so they're like, they're wrestling on the in the whatever it's called, the vestibule. And then they come back down. And you know, they're wrestling on the where the electronics are and where all the storage containers are. And then here comes Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre takes them both out. First Jacob goes down, and then Cody catches that powerbomb to the ground. And Drew is the one left standing. Drew then cuts a promo, basically saying, I'm the champion. Anybody who's got my name in their mouth is going to feel this. Everybody who brings up my name is going down. And I love that promo. That promo that Drew said at the end was the first time in the last couple of weeks that Drew's been champion that I said, oh, he might be holding on to this thing. Drew coming out, and then coming out again in the main event, like just being such an overall big part of the show, the same way he was, by the way, on SmackDown, part of multiple segments, like realizing that foundationally, SmackDown may have changed because Drew McIntyre is champion. That was really the first time where I was like, look, it could be that Cody gets it back, but also Drew might be holding on to this for a while. Drew might be this guy that now people are going to have to tear it from him because he's not letting it go for anything. I also thought the fact that Drew took both those guys out, clearly this triple threat match has to happen at some point, and it's going to be a big deal. And I mean, it's going to be one of two things. I think that this triple threat either is your WWE Championship match at the Elimination Chamber, which maybe somebody wins the Royal Rumble, that leads you to thinking, oh, this might be the title match. And then whoever wins that triple threat is the one that goes to WrestleMania to face them. Or that might be your WrestleMania match. Jacob, Drew, Cody. Maybe they can hold it off until WrestleMania. Maybe they can continue to build new opponents. All you need is one or two more opponents for Drew McIntyre before WrestleMania. You know, if you don't have either of them win the Royal Rumble, if you have both Drew and Jacob, Cody and Jacob in the Elimination Chamber match, maybe. Now Drew's got to fight somebody else at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Could be any number of people. You know, and if you do that, if you have Drew defending the title against multiple people before he gets to WrestleMania to defend it, then we can get on here and have a real conversation about the fact that Drew might retain that title through WrestleMania. It's a triple threat. There's a million different ways you could go. Drew might hold on to that title. And by the way, there's a wrinkle in this story that is very who ran over Stone Cold. Somebody did it for The Rock. Drew still flat out saying, this was the week that Jacob said Drew knocked his teeth out of his mouth. And Drew has said, I did not do that, and I never lie. And that's true. That's part of the character. If we just found out, well, Drew did do it and he lied, then that really does disrupt the Drew McIntyre character. Now it's a different character. Now we're kind of taking it differently. I think one of the reasons that people have taken to this Drew character so much is because it's true. He doesn't lie. So, you know, do we find out that Cody busted his teeth out of his mouth and we actually get a Cody turn? I don't think so. Do we find out it was somebody else and that's where Jacob moves on to after this? I don't know. I think you got to watch what's going on with Jacob, because I think there's a good chance that you let this keep going for another month or two and you're going to have a lot of people that actually want Jacob to be the WWE champion. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. But, you know, I mean, clearly There's a big story to be told there that they're kind of just dancing around right now. Jacob says it was Drew. Drew says it wasn't him. Jacob is not really trying very hard to convince anybody that it was Drew, and Drew's not really trying to convince anybody that it wasn't him. You know, nobody's presenting evidence. Nobody's got the tape yet because they're clearly not ready today to tell you who did this. Because when they tell you who did this, you're just going to know. I would imagine there's security footage, or I would imagine there's whatever somebody saw. But at some point, that's got to come out, whether that comes out after this rivalry, so it's got something for Jacob to do on the other side. I don't know. But I'm fascinated right now. I think Jacob and Cody is amazing. I think Drew is amazing. You know, and there's still a world where they do this triple threat match at Elimination Chamber, and Cody wins his title back, and you go to WrestleMania, and you're still doing Roman versus Cody. But at the same time, I don't know, man. People really reacted to that Cody, Drew, Jacob stuff. And people continue to react to it. And I think you could have something cooking that you could do for WrestleMania. Guys, we're going to get right back to it. But new year, new systems. Am I right? This is the time of year when we all look at the messier parts of our businesses and we think there has to be a better way. Luckily, there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest and easiest upgrades that you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O. It's the smarter way to run your business communications. It's easy. Calls, texts, voicemails, transcripts, and contact details all live in one clean view. With full context at your fingertips, your team communicates faster, stays aligned, and delivers a more personal experience. Make this year the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/notsam. That's QUO.com/notsam. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. You're not going to do it for Royal Rumble because we now know that Sami Zayn is the #1 contender going into the Royal Rumble. It really is. I mean, Triple H is having a week remembering what it looked like when he first took over NXT. The fact that in the last 7 days, Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Sami Zayn have all been put on a pedestal. Clearly, Black and Gold was doing something, right? I wasn't shocked that Sami Zayn won. That was my prediction. I had predicted. By the way, Nicole Ryan from the Morning Mashup was with me on Busted Open, and we made Saturday night's main event picks. Nicole has never watched wrestling before. So it was a very entertaining conversation between myself, Nicole, Dave LaGreca, and the former Baron Corbin, Bishop Dyer. But I made my educated pick there that Sami Zayn would win. Nicole picked Trick Williams because she said that name sounded like a bad boy that she would have dated a few years back. So, you know, we both had different strategies going into what may happen at Saturday night's main event. As it turned out, I was right. And I think it has a lot to do with, like, timing, with story. You know, I think giving Sami Zayn that big win in Montreal in the same building where he had that match with Roman Reigns. I think putting Sami Zayn in that title match with Drew McIntyre in Riyadh, where we know Sami Zayn is going to get an absolutely insane reaction. I think that's all done with intention. And I also think, you know, and even if you're not paying attention to the location, the fact that Sami Zayn just smacked the taste out of Drew McIntyre's mouth on SmackDown, just smacked him right across the face on SmackDown. You know, like clearly that's got to get paid off somewhere. And then at the end of Saturday night's main event, WWE letting everybody go home happy. That doesn't always happen. With Drew trying to come in and jump Sami Zayn, but Sami saw it coming, got the best of Drew McIntyre, and now we end on Sami Zayn with his hands in the air. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to see Randy Orton back in that title picture. I'm sure there are people that want to see Damian Priest progress. I'm sure there are people that love the idea of the Rocket being strapped to Trick Williams this early. But look, we got a lot of time on all of this and a lot of stories to tell. I think the idea is that Drew clearly has a story with both Jacob Fatu and Cody Rhodes. So if you wanted Randy Orton to win that Saturday night's main event four-way, then you're looking at a scenario where Randy Orton has one television to cut a promo on Drew McIntyre, and then he goes to Riyadh and loses to Drew McIntyre so he can keep going with this feud between Jacob and Cody, which I don't think anybody wants for Randy Orton. Sami, it'll be a big moment. It'll be back in the spotlight. He'll get those big reactions. Hopefully he'll get those big reactions, and it will, the one that he got in Montreal and then the one that he'll get next week in Riyadh, I believe. And it will kind of inspire people to be like, oh, yeah, that's right. I love this Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn rules. You know, that's what I think the hope would be. I wonder, because now he's out of the Royal Rumble match, I would imagine. So, like, I think he's going to lose to Drew McIntyre. When he does, I wonder what happens with Sami Zayn after. Will there be a crisis of conscience? Will there be a heel turn? Will there be just Sami kind of going like, okay, I got to start over again? Maybe the way I have it booked, I think the World Heavyweight title is going to be the title that the winner of the Royal Rumble takes. Maybe Sami Zayn ends up in the Elimination Chamber and wants to convince people that he's going to win and go to WrestleMania. You know, I mean, there are things that you can do. I wonder if Cody and Jacob get involved in this match. You know, the way Drew got involved in their match, does Cody and Jacob get involved in this match? And oh, by the way, is Drew going to get involved in the Royal Rumble match and maybe cost Cody and or Jacob? And if Cody or Jacob get involved in this match, does that anger Sami Zayn? I would think Damian Priest is probably not thrilled that Sami Zayn came out in his match and got involved on Friday. So maybe that's the direction that you go in. Maybe Damian Priest is going to turn heel and start going after Sami Zayn. I think that's possible. I think Sami Zayn could definitely use a refresh. I mean, I'm sorry, Sami Zayn too, but Damian Priest could definitely use a refresh. What if Damian Priest turns heel after Royal Rumble, goes after Sami Zayn, that rivalry is going, and then Aleister Black comes back and backs up Damian Priest, and then you still get the tag team that I want, which is a heel tag team of Aleister Black and Damian Priest together. I think that's exactly what I would do. That's literally that. Okay, that's my plan. Sami Zayn goes to the Royal Rumble in Riyadh, gets his title match. It's a big defense for Drew. Drew gets to solidify himself as champion. Sami Zayn loses. Maybe Sami Zayn cuts a promo on SmackDown, kind of talking about where he's at right now. Maybe Damian Priest interrupts. Sami Zayn and Damian Priest have a rivalry. Maybe, I mean, listen, in a perfect world, if we could get Kevin Owens back, Damian Priest and Aleister Black versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens as a WrestleMania match would be killer. But I don't know if Kevin Owens will be back that soon. That's not to say maybe Sami Zayn strikes up a friendship with Carmelo Hayes. Maybe that's a direction you could go in. Melo and Sami versus Aleister Black and Damian Priest, because I think you do Priest versus Sami as the singles, maybe at the Elimination Chamber, and then bring it to a tag match as the big match at WrestleMania. It's possible. It's possible. The other name that I mentioned was Finn Balor. And, you know, I was talking about this on the radio show. Every single person that I've talked to about the match that Finn Balor had with CM Punk on Monday Night Raw has the exact same opinion about it. Everyone was reminded of Finn Balor. Everyone was reminded about how great Finn Balor is. Everyone was reminded about how cool that dude is. Coming out to the old music, hitting them with the boss. I mean, everything about it. And then having that match. And we don't see Finn Balor in singles matches like we used to see Finn Balor in singles matches. So to realize that that's still in the tank, ready to go, you start to immediately have flashbacks. Anybody that's been watching wrestling for 10 years goes back to, I think it was 2016. Again, a lot of 2016 today. Goes back to 2016 and Finn Balor winning the Universal Championship at SummerSlam against Seth Rollins and never being able to get back to that point. And it's another one where we look at Shinsuke and go, man, if they had only gone with Shinsuke. Now we look at Finn Balor and go like, what? Now I see with Shinsuke, I'm going, what if they had gone with Shinsuke? With Finn Balor, I'm going, we need to go with Finn Balor right now. And I'll tell you when I realized my opinion had changed and that Finn Balor had done this. I'm watching this match and I'm watching and I'm trying to figure out like what they're gonna do because Ireland is so behind Finn Balor. And like I like what they ended up doing. It was almost like, that's it, huh? But this is CM Punk's title reign to me is defined by a guy who is a veteran who goes into matches with incredible opponents and waits for them to make one mistake. He will fight. CM Punk will never give up. He's just going to keep taking punishment and fighting and taking punishment and fighting and taking punishment and fighting to the point where as his opponent, you're like, what the hell? What is it going to take to get this guy done? And then you're going to do one thing and he's going to catch you and then go to sleep and the match is over. It's what he did to Finn Balor. It's what he did to Braun Breaker. But as I'm sitting there with Balor fever, which is a very rare and contagious Irish disease, I'm going, oh, I know what I want to happen. I want Dominic Mysterio to come in and like cost Finn Balor. And I even when I said it might be tough to do on that episode because it was the same episode where Natalya turned on Maxine Dupree, but still, I want Dominic Mysterio to turn on Finn Balor. And I was like, oh my God, I've been sitting here advocating for, I feel like months, for Dominic Mysterio to be a babyface. Like, when are we going to do it? Let's get Dominic Mysterio in that babyface position, babyface position, babyface position. He's the man. And I still think it's going to happen, but I don't think it has to happen right away now. What I saw from Finn Balor, especially with JD McDonough out injured, if you're going to make a fracture in the Judgment Day, because I think the Judgment Day will probably still exist, just exist in a different form. If you're going to fracture that group forever, I would have told you Finn Balor turns on Dominic, beats him down, Finn Balor. But now, after seeing Raw, I feel completely differently. Completely differently. I think you can keep Dominic heel. I think that John Cena run actually really helped Dominic in the sense that once he's back from his shoulder issue or whatever it was, you can keep him heel. Dominic turning on Finn Balor keeps him heel. And I really think you could do something special at WrestleMania between Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor. And that because, the world title picture is a little bit crowded on Monday Night Raw right now. And for Finn Balor to just jump out of the Judgment Day into the world title picture, I mean, he could. He's Finn Balor. But I think, man, it doesn't even have to be for the Intercontinental title. It could, but it shouldn't be about the Intercontinental title. I mean, Dominic Mysterio versus Finn Balor. And that's how you advertise it, because I think it was on Cody's podcast. Finn Balor was talking about the Demon and how the WWE on the main roster, they never quite figured out the Demon in the sense that, they made him into a separate person. And it inherently made Finn Balor as a human look actually weaker because the Demon was so good. And it also turned the Demon into a superhero instead of the Demon just being this other side of Finn Balor, that when Finn Balor puts on this war paint, it unlocks this other side of Finn Balor. Not supernatural. I think if you just go Finn Balor versus, and don't advertise it, Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania, and then Dominic Mysterio is waiting for Finn Balor in the ring. Come on. And the Demon's music hits. Boom, boom. And we see the Demon come out to face Dominic Mysterio, and then the Demon wins. I mean, I know, put the young guy over. Finn Balor's not retiring yet. Have Finn Balor bust that Demon out one more time and have him beat Dominic Mysterio. Because the last couple uses of that Demon were not right. Later Demon is not right. Purple Demon, Finn Balor losing to Edge at Hell in a Cell in WrestleMania 39, not great. Red Demon, Finn Balor losing to Roman Reigns because the rope broke, and it turns out it just broke. Not good. Not right. We got to take it back to TakeOver Demon. TakeOver Demon, Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio, I think, is what you do to and it would advance Finn Balor as a babyface, but I think it would really get Dominic Mysterio into that conversation that he's already kind of in because of the John Cena stuff, but he's been out, unfortunately, of action. It keeps Dominic Mysterio in that conversation of top heels, which is where you want him to be to eventually become a top babyface. All right, before we get to emails, we got the Royal Rumble coming up on Saturday. We'll probably have a Royal Rumble preview podcast in the week at some point, but we already talked about we have the world title match. I mean, the WWE title match, which I think will stick with Drew McIntyre. We have the retirement match, which in my gut now after Saturday night's main event, I kind of feel like AJ might get retired, which is crazy. Could be something else, though. Could be Gunther winning. By my records, here's what we've got. Let's go over the women's Royal Rumble now. I believe declared in the Rumble are Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Jordynne Grace, Raquel Rodriguez, Bayley, Lyra Valkyria, Asuka, Kairi Sane, Chelsea Green, Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, Nia Jax, Lash Legend, and Julia. That's 15 women that have declared for the Royal Rumble so far. And I think there's a lot to be done here. I think you will have more women. I would say 15 more women in this match, obviously. I think you'll have more women on the roster that are in this match. I think you'll have NXT women that are in this match. I mean, who knows? Will we have people from TNA? It's possible. I don't know for sure. It's interesting that Jordynne Grace, who's been in the Royal Rumble twice, I think, as a TNA superstar, now declares as a WWE main roster superstar for this Rumble. I think that I based on the feedback that WWE Unreal got and the way that Chelsea Green was kind of handled on that show, there's a lot of people who think that why wouldn't you put Chelsea Green in the main event? You know, so I think that I don't know. I would hope that this Royal Rumble, you give Chelsea Green. I don't think she's going to win, but you give Chelsea Green a moment, a spot. Like, it's not a ha-ha. It's not a goof. It's not Chelsea Green goes out there and is in there for 2 seconds. Either way, by the way, she would make a moment out of it. But I think, like, kind of maybe flirt with the idea of what if she did win. I would like to see that. I think that it could be interesting with Rhea Ripley and Io Sky both in this thing. I don't know if you go full Hogan Sid Justice, but I think you could start at least kind of sowing some seeds of discontent in there. Maybe, I don't know if Io or Rhea would eliminate each other, but maybe there's a miscommunication that ends up in both of them getting eliminated. I think the team is too good, and I kind of think the team stays together through WrestleMania. Like, you already know, I think that, I said it last week, I think their WrestleMania match, if it were up to me, at this point, I'd go Rio versus Charlotte and Alexa and really build it up as a massive match. 4 big stars. But I think that both of them getting eliminated due to a miscommunication could be good. You know, Raquel Rodriguez in there. I think they're going to give Raquel a female Diesel spot. They're all already calling her Big Sexy. But I think they're really putting over that part of Raquel. So I think she'll end up with the Diesel spot. I don't know if there'll be a men's Diesel spot if they give it to Raquel in the women's. But ultimately, I've got to go with Liv Morgan as the winner of this Royal Rumble match. Now, in terms of who else might be in this thing, I would not be... I think Sol Ruka could very well be in this thing. I think Zarya could very well be in this thing. I wouldn't be too surprised to see more NXT. Like Jada Parker, I would like to see in the Rumble. I don't know if we will. I would like to see a Jada Parker in the Rumble. I think she would do really well on the main roster, but I think Sol Ruka for sure, maybe Zarya. There are rumors floating around about maybe a Paige return in the Royal Rumble. I think Paige coming back for the Royal Rumble would be massive. I think that would be really good. I feel like Nikki Bella will be back for the Rumble. Like, that would make sense, right? And I mean, in terms of the returns I want to see, I would love to see Bianca Belair back for the Rumble. Because I also, you know, Bianca winning the Royal Rumble would also be really, really good. But I kind of really like, especially after Liv Morgan took the pin on Saturday night's main event, and I mean got folded in half. I didn't know humans could do that to other humans. Rhea Ripley folding Liv Morgan in half to pin her. I think the fact that Liv took that pin is going to be made fine with Liv Morgan winning the Royal Rumble. That's my pick. Liv Morgan wins the Women's Royal Rumble. And then for the Men's Royal Rumble, and a lot's changed, declared, I have, according to my notes, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns announced via graphic on SmackDown that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble. You have to wonder, I think SmackDown next week is also going to be in Riyadh, so you wonder if Roman's going to be on SmackDown. Because they wouldn't have to announce it in advance because they're not necessarily trying to sell tickets the same way they do in America. I wonder if Roman's going to be on SmackDown or if he's going to wait for the Rumble for his big return. But we've got Cody, we got Roman, we've got Gunther, we've got Jey Uso, we've got Penta, we've got Rey Mysterio, we've got Dragon Lee, and we've got Solo Sikoa. I think that's what we've got. I think I've only got 8 people as of the time of this recording officially declared for the Rumble. I think the fact that you have Cody, Roman, Gunther all in there immediately goes, okay. I think like dark horses are like Jey Uso. I think, I think there'll be some kind of Wyatt Six representation in the Rumble, whether it's Rowan or Uncle Howdy or somebody like that, that will kind of take out Solo Sikoa now that the MFTs are the tag team champions. But I think that we'll get a lot more declared on Raw because I know who I got. So I think Braun Breaker is still going to win the Royal Rumble. Braun Breaker is still my pick. I think they're all going to sit down. I think the entire vision is going to be in the Royal Rumble. I think you're going to get Braun, Austin Theory, Bronson Reed, and Logan Paul together in the Rumble. And I think that they are going to work together in the Rumble as a team. And I think Braun Breaker is going to win the men's Royal Rumble match. I think in terms of possibilities and rumors, I think you could be looking at a Chris Jericho return, possibly, maybe. I think you could be looking at a Will Hobbs Royal Rumble debut. There's a big part of me that thinks that Will Hobbs is going to end up straight on the main roster if he is indeed signed to WWE, as rumors would suggest. I think that Oba Femi debuting at the Royal Rumble is a fairly likely possibility. I think him throwing out a ton of people. And then who knows where they're going. Maybe, I don't know if you want to do Oba Gunther right away. I don't know, who. I think there are a few moments that you could make with Oba in the Rumble that would be beneficial. I think you could at least have a moment between Gunther and Oba. I think another person that I would predict could very well be in the Royal Rumble is Brock Lesnar. He's on a lot of the promotional material. I think Brock Lesnar could be in the Royal Rumble, especially on this road to WrestleMania. And if you're talking about having Oba and Brock and Jericho and Cody and Roman and Gunther, I mean, it's a crazy, crazy Royal Rumble. I think in terms of people that aren't on TV right now, I think if you've got the entire vision in the Royal Rumble, who's going to help take out the vision? I would love to see Seth Rollins return at the Rumble. Seth Rollins could return at the Rumble. I mean, look, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what his timeline looks like. I know that he was doing commentary on the dude in Taipei, I believe it was, climbing up the skyscraper on Netflix over the weekend. Got plenty of time to get to Riyadh. Didn't have a sling on. Hasn't had a sling in a while. And in the Royal Rumble, if he comes out at 30, it's not like he has to do a ton of time in the Rumble. Like, you could come back for the Rumble and not really wrestle again for another couple months and still be on TV and still, so, not go crazy with it. I would love to see Seth Rollins back for the Rumble. And I would hope that we will. And I think Kevin Owens is a possibility. It's a stretch. Nothing about that injury feels short term. But it's possible. I mean, he's out there. I wanted to mention his name because he's out there. But I think you'll have, I would love to see Seth Rollins come out, eliminate Logan Paul, eliminate Bronson Reed, which will be huge, eliminate Austin Theory. And then as he's doing that, Braun Breaker sneaks behind him and eliminates him. And now you have Seth mad at Braun Breaker. And that also allows Braun Breaker to be a part of the Final Four, the Final Six, all of those segments completely by himself. And then Braun Breaker wins, and then you go to WrestleMania either with Braun versus Punk or with Seth versus Braun versus Punk. That's what I'm thinking for the Royal Rumble. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Email in, and definitely after the Rumble, make sure you email in because I'm sure we're going to have a ton. I would imagine this week we're going to have a Royal Rumble preview. We're going to have a Royal Rumble emergency pod. We're going to have that Monday pod. We're going to have stuff from the radio show throughout the week. I mean, it's going to be a big week for Notsam Wrestling, so make sure you're subscribed across all audio platforms and make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Notsam Wrestling. Let's get into these emails. If you want to be a part of the show, email notsamwrestling@gmail.com. That's notsamwrestling@gmail.com. Toby writes in, "Hey, Sam, great interview with Kenny Ortega on the morning show. Thank you. Now that him and Danielle are best friends and have connections, I was just wondering how long until we get Vanessa Hudgens in the basement." Oh, my God. That's what I should have done. I should have gotten Vanessa Hudgens' number from Kenny Ortega. He's the director of High School Musical. And then we're still working on Vanessa Hudgens in the basement. We got to get Vanessa Hudgens in the basement. Also, I had an idea for the live show. Maybe pick someone in your life who isn't a fan up to this point, maybe Danielle or Nicole or someone else in the Not Sam universe, and have them watch and give perspective as a new fan segment. As you said, there are more fans now than ever. You know what? I mean, should I do something like that? My universe expands so wide. Would you guys be interested if I got some of the people in my life to watch wrestling for the first time? And whether we did it like as a live show or whether we did it as a podcast here in the basement or however we did it. Was that something you'd be interested in? Hit me up on Twitter @NotSam. Hit me in the replies or in the YouTube comments. The Twitter and the YouTube comments is where I'll see them right away. Would you like to see me kind of bring some of my people that aren't in the wrestling bubble, show them wrestling, and maybe you guys could give suggestions as to what we watch for their kind of introduction? We did that at the very beginning when I first started Patreon. It was called Captive Audience. I would make my wife watch stuff and everything, and then, you know, we had 3 kids and got really busy. But yeah, if that's something that you think would be fun, let me know. Tweet @NotSam or leave it in the YouTube comments. Let's see. Clyde writes in, "Hope all is well and the weather isn't too cold." It is actually too cold, but I appreciate that. All is well. A quick question. What are your top 5 move sellers in wrestling in reference to enhancing match quality? Mine are Shawn Michaels, Roman Reigns, Ric Flair, Rock, and Mick Foley. Well, I think Dolph Ziggler always shined in that department. I think it's not always like your ability to sell in every single match. Like Roman Reigns is a good example because Roman will like be dominant, but then one punch and he'll make like a surprised, hurt, shock. Like Roman is really good at selling without bumping all over the ring. And bumping all over the ring is great. Like Shawn and Dolph bumping all over the ring is great. I don't know if Mick Foley was ever selling or just doing things that hurt really, really badly. But I think Randy Orton's very good at selling. And I actually think, and this is going to be a controversial one, okay? Brock Lesnar is very good at selling. Brock Lesnar is extremely good at professional wrestling. All aspects of it. Brock Lesnar, when it comes time for him to sell and tell the right story, he's a genius. I showed my son the 2020 Royal Rumble over the weekend because it's so good. And that is full of like Brock Lesnar just being dominant. And then somebody gets one on him and he can't believe it. And then somebody else gets one on. And then the way he like sells that Claymore at the end of the match. Brock deserves to be on that list more than people imagine. Camden writes in, "Hot take. I think Drew should dominate and squash Sami Zayn in just 8 to 10 minutes, full beatdown at the Rumble to enhance and maximize Drew heat going into Mania season. Thoughts?" I completely disagree. I don't think it would enhance anything. That's not the character Drew is. You know, he's not Obafemi. Like, that's not who Drew is. That's not Drew's character. People aren't worried about Drew because he's going to kill you in 5 minutes. People are worried about Drew because, yes, he's powerful, he's strong, but he knows all the wrestling moves. He knows how to get out of all the wrestling moves. He knows how to win wrestling matches, and he's smart. So, no, I mean, beating Sami Zayn in Riyadh is going to be enough heat. 8 to 10 minutes is just like, it wouldn't be giving Drew McIntyre all this heat. It would be burying Sami Zayn for absolutely no reason. Mark writes in, and he wants one of these. Fatu! Of course you can have one of those. First, let me say I really enjoyed your conversation with CM Punk a couple of weeks ago. Thank you very much. I look forward to Jacob Fatu visiting the basement someday. Fatu! We got to get Jacob. Who do we get first, Vanessa Hudgens or Jacob Fatu? I think Jacob would have the time of his life, personally. I think the Jacob thing will happen. I think Vanessa Hudgens probably has too much security. I think the Jacob Fatu thing will happen. I have one question to hit you with today. Does there seem to be an increase in injuries since AEW formed? Are wrestlers getting themselves hurt trying to do more spectacular spots? Or maybe I'm just paying closer attention to the product. I don't know. I mean, I would have to look at it statistic-wise. It seems like there are more injuries now. I think that correlates. I can't correlate that to AEW. I can correlate that to wrestling being more physical, but maybe you would also say, are there more injuries since there have been less house shows? Maybe, I don't know. It feels like there have been, but maybe they're just more visible. I don't know. I would have to look at statistics on that. Matt writes in, hello to the OG podcast Tribal Chief. That's right. If you'll indulge me, I have 2 questions this week. Or I acknowledge that you'll choose the better one. Okay, I'm going to read them both, and then we'll figure out if I'm going to do both of them. I'm thinking of the scene from Unreal where Triple H asks who Chelsea Green works with if she wins the title. He says any babyface higher on the card like Alexa Bliss she can't beat. My question is why? Or why not? It's Alexa Bliss, not Brock Lesnar. Alexa can take a loss. Tiffy can too. I can see why she can't beat Charlotte, but that seems backwards thinking to me. You don't need to protect Alexa Bliss like she's Gunther. Your thoughts? I'm actually really glad you asked me that because I feel like that has been a big conversation amongst wrestling fans lately. And this idea, like, of course you can beat Alexa Bliss. It's no big deal. Like, you can't beat Alexa Bliss right now. I think it's what is going on. Like, I think that a lot of times when people get critical of the writing room for wrestling, they look at the thing they want in a bubble. Well, I just want Chelsea Green to do good. Yeah, she can beat Alexa Bliss. Let's have her beat everybody. But if what you don't see is that they're in the middle of a conversation about building Alexa Bliss on SmackDown. If what I'm telling you is correct, if there is an eventual place to get to where it's, for example, I said Rhea Ripley and Io Sky versus Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, right? That's where I'd like to go for WrestleMania. And I'd like for it to be a massive, massive, massive tag team match that makes up for the fact that any of those 4 women could be in the world title match, but they aren't. It's a way to get those big stars on, have a big star match, but allow more of the roster to get an opportunity for the championship and have these big WrestleMania matches. But if that's where I'm going, even if that's where I'm going in 3 months, I can't have Chelsea beat Alexa Bliss. And it's not beat Alexa Bliss in one match. They're saying over the course of a story. Who is she working with does not mean what's the match next week on SmackDown. It means what's the story that we're telling going forward. It'll end up being a series of matches that will lead to one eventual blow-off where one person wins. That's how wrestling is done. So if I tell a story where Chelsea Green has gotten the better of Alexa Bliss, then how do I now convince you that Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss versus Rhea Ripley and Io Sky is a match with 4 of the biggest superstars of all time? You can't tell me that they're 4 of the biggest superstars of all time if I just watched one of them get beat by whoever it is. This has nothing to do with Chelsea Green at that point. Could be Chelsea Green. Could be Julia. Could be whoever. You know, I think that like to look at this stuff in a vacuum is anybody that watches wrestling understands better than that. That like you go, okay, but if Chelsea were to beat Alexa Bliss, then this is where we've got Alexa Bliss positioned on the overall show, on the television show. So now we need to go in this direction with Chelsea after this, and this direction with Alexa Bliss after this. Like you're constantly thinking in months, in years in advance. And sometimes you're right, and sometimes you're wrong. Now, if Chelsea Green gets over organically, which I think she can, then, and does, and has, by the way, then plans change. And if now the move is like, look, we were going to do this big 4-person tag match at WrestleMania, it was going to be the biggest stars, but now it looks like what people are going to want to see is Chelsea Green versus Charlotte Flair. If that's where we're going, if we're going to eventually get to Chelsea Green versus Charlotte Flair, well, now, of course, Chelsea Green can beat Alexa Bliss. Of course she can. Because the idea is that we're getting there. But we're not just thinking about what's happening this week or next week. We're thinking about this talent. We need to do something with them this week and next week and at the next pay-per-view that is going to put them in the right position so that we have them ready to go for our next stadium show or whatever it is. Alexa Bliss has been positioned as the person in the Charlotte Flair Alexa tag team that has gotten Charlotte to this place. I would argue tremendously that Alexa Bliss is the leader in the Alexa Charlotte tag team. So unless you are going to Charlotte versus Chelsea, or unless you're going to Chelsea is now going to team up with this person like Alba Fire, and they're going to have a rivalry with this tag team, Charlotte and Alexa, then you can't have Chelsea just now work with and beat Alexa for the United States Championship, because now you've wiped out all the stuff that we're doing with Charlotte and Alexa. That's how I take it. That's what it is. It's not saying we can never beat Alexa Bliss. It's saying it doesn't make sense in terms of how these characters are positioned and where we want these characters to go. Like, you can't just reassess every week and go, okay, who are the fans cheering for? Okay, so this week they're going to be the big star. That's not how you establish people. And so since I like that question, the second question, I agree with you that Gunther can't lose to AJ Styles right now based on having just beaten John Cena, but we expect more than a month of AJ in 2026. So what if AJ loses in some way that gives him a storyline reason to turn back up as an Americano? Worst idea ever or best idea ever? Great question, Matt. Worst idea ever. Probably should have just done the first question. Let's go to Jess. OPTC. If AJ versus Gunther turns into a top 5 contender for best Royal Rumble PLE match, non-Rumble match, what other four would you put in that top 5 in any order? Definitely Roman and Sami from 2023. I guess probably Brett and Razor in 93 was really good. I know Brett and Diesel had one also, but Brett and Diesel's Survivor Series match I think I liked better. I don't know, to just spring this on me. Didn't Roman and Seth also have a pretty good Rumble match? Hardy Boys versus Dudley Boys, maybe? But that same Royal Rumble, you had Triple H versus Cactus Jack. I would say at Royal Rumble 2000, there were at least 2 matches better than the Royal Rumble. Maybe Taz and Kurt Angle, too. Ash writes in, you've heavily pushed for Rhea Sky at Mania. How would you book them going from tag champ? No, I've already changed my mind on that, but I appreciate the call. I mean, the email, whatever this is. I don't know what medium we're on. Sam writes in, hey, phenomenal OPTC. Oh, hello. This will be the last email, by the way. It's if AJ's time is up, would you do another special podcast for his career like Cena's? Oh, man. With that in mind, off the top of your head, pick 3 defining moments of AJ Styles' career: debuting for WWE, winning the WWE Championship, and starting the Bullet Club, I guess. I don't know how you, I mean, that leaves out everything in TNA. Yeah, I might have to, you know what? I might have to start getting some notes together on an AJ podcast just in case. It's not going to be a 4-parter. It's not going to be the Cena treatment. But we got to do something for AJ, right? Do we want that? That's another one. Leave it in the YouTube comments. Hit me on Twitter. Do we want that podcast series where I'm showing people wrestling for the first time or around the first time? And do we want an AJ podcast? At Notsam on Twitter. YouTube comments, Notsam Wrestling. And we will see you throughout the week here on Notsam Wrestling.